Welcome, curious minds. Today, we're really digging into something super practical and valuable, a detailed look at the Ellii platform.
Mm.
Think of it as your fast track to getting smart about a state-supported digital learning tool, one specifically designed for adult education.
Absolutely. And the source material for this deep dive, it's a set of slides called Ellii Training for All Staff. It comes from the statewide digital learning team at Literacy, Minnesota, dated July 2025. It's pretty comprehensive, walking you through, everything from getting your staff account set up to managing learners and tracking their progress.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Our goal today is to pull out the most important administrative details, the practical tips you'll need from these materials. This is especially for you if you're a teacher, maybe support staff, a manager, coordinator, or even a volunteer who's going to be getting one of these state-supported LE accounts. We want to get you ready to hit the ground running, basically. Understanding not just how to use it, but how it all fits into the bigger picture, the operations of your program. First up, let's define our terms. What is Ellii exactly? What makes it particularly useful for adult ed?
Well, what's really insightful about Ellii, I think, is its versatility. It sort of breaks down those traditional barriers between print and digital. It can function as a rich curriculum resource library for teachers, so you can download and print things like PDF lessons, worksheets, flashcards, stuff for in-class use. Or, alternatively, it can serve as a distance learning platform, for learners working independently outside of class time.
Oh, okay.
And of course, the real power often comes when you do both.
Right, right. So it sounds like incredible flexibility. A teacher could just grab printables or project digital tasks right in the classroom, maybe on a smartboard, or even just share their screen in an online class. I think I saw an example they gave something about a step-based reading test practice.
Yeah, that showed both a printable PDF and a digital version.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here's a neat little detail I noticed. You can even annotate the paper version, the PDF, right within the platform, though it mentions those annotations aren't saved after you close it. Still kind of useful, though.
Precisely. That adaptability means programs can pretty seamlessly transition between, say, resource-heavy in-person teaching and fully independent distance learning. It offers, well, unparalleled flexibility to meet diverse learner needs and adapt to, unforeseen circumstances. The critical question for you, the listener, is, which of these use cases is most relevant for your program right now? Understanding LA's dual nature is really key, especially as we explore how it's being implemented statewide.
And that statewide context, yeah, that's precisely where things get really interesting, because this isn't just about individual accounts, is it? It's part of a much bigger plan.
It is. We're looking at a 2025-26 pilot year for this state-supported access to Ellii. And a crucial point here is that there will be one shared organization account for all adult education consortia.
Consortia, so like
Oh,
regional groups of programs.
exactly. Regional groupings of adult education programs in Minnesota. And this structure, it mirrors how other state-supported platforms like MobiMax and Edmentum are set up.
Okay, which brings us to a potential hurdle, maybe, for programs already using Ellii,
Yeah.
the whole who pays question.
Mhm.
If you or your program currently pay for Ellii, the materials make it clear you'll need to pause or, finish up your existing subscription
Hmm.
because your email address can only be linked to one Ellii account at a time to this state-supported plan. It's a logistical thing, right? To get everyone under the new shared account.
That's right. It's a necessary step. And this unified structure, it definitely simplifies overall account management across the state. But it also means clear leadership at the program level is, well, essential. The digital learning team, that's the statewide digital learning team at Literacy, Minnesota, they strongly recommend designating one person, or maybe just one specific email account, to act as your primary LI site administrator.
Yeah.
And ideally, this individual should probably be the same person who's responsible for entering distance learning proxy hours into SID.
SID, the state's Student Information Database. Got it.
Yeah.
So before anyone just jumps in and starts creating their own classes or learner accounts, the materials really emphasize talking about this, discussing LI administration with your manager or coordinator. Because even if all you want to do is print worksheets, all staff will have teacher accounts. They'll have the ability to create classes.
Right.
So understanding this structure is vital for keeping that statewide account organized and really using it as a collective resource. It's about teamwork, clear communication.
Absolutely. Collective responsibility.
Okay, so this is where the rubber meets the road for daily operations,
Yeah.
right? Managing classes and getting your learners actually set up within the platform.
Exactly. And the DL team, They offer some clear recommendations for those site admin responsibilities. The idea is the site admin should create all of your site's classes, and they'll act as the lead teacher for those classes. They also create the learner accounts, regularly update the class rosters, add co-teachers when needed, that sort of thing.
Makes sense.
Now, while programs certainly can choose a different process, the underlying principle is making sure all staff have access to the learner accounts and the data they need for, effective instruction and reporting. It's really about designing a workflow that suits your specific program.
And the source material really brings this to life with a couple of examples which I thought were helpful. It talks about Sarah. She coordinates a smaller program, multi-level classes across 3 sites. She became the Ellii site admin for her whole consortium. And her approach was setting up classes where she was the lead teacher and then the other teachers were co-teachers. So this let her centrally manage things like new learner accounts, sharing logins, weekly archiving, and also handling usage reports and those critical SID entries every couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's a good example of one way to do it. And then there's the other example, Jorge and Fartun. They're intake and data specialists for a larger leveled program. They actually took a shared approach to the site admin role.
Oh, okay.
They acted as lead teachers for their own morning and evening classes, respectively, but were co-teachers for each other's classes. And they even managed specific distance learning only classes for waitlisted learners using something called Ellii Solo, where learners choose their own content. Yeah. And they had similar responsibilities to Sarah, creating accounts, sharing info, archiving, running reports, but they entered the DL time monthly instead of biweekly. These examples, I think, really underscore the importance of having a clear plan. A plan in place before anyone starts creating classes or learner accounts. Doesn't matter if you're a small program or a big one.
Totally agree. So how does this translate into practical steps then? For those site admins, the materials point to videos and step-by-step directions, right? For creating classes, adding co-teachers.
That's right. And if you're joining as a co-teacher, you can actually jump directly to specific points in those same resources to learn how to join an existing class.
Handy.
Yeah, the key takeaway is just knowing these guides are readily available. You don't have to figure it out from scratch.
Good. Now, what about naming conventions? That sounds like an important administrative detail given it's a shared statewide plan.
It really is. Site admins need to use a standard 2-letter abbreviation for their program or consortium right at the beginning of each class name. And this same abbreviation, it should also be used by the instructional staff when they're naming and sharing folders, especially if they share with Literacy Minnesota, because that makes the curriculum accessible to all teachers across the state.
Oh, okay. So it's about organization and making sure shared resources are easy to find for everyone.
Exactly. It ensures organization and helps build those shared resources.
And here's a crucial what-if scenario. What if your site admin leaves, moves on?
Yeah, the materials anticipate this. They explain that the lead teacher of a class can transfer ownership to a co-teacher within that same class.
How do they do that?
Pretty simple, actually, just by going to Edit Team and selecting Transfer Ownership.
Okay.
And of course, you can always contact the statewide DL team for assistance if you run into trouble. It's good to know there are safeguards, to prevent administrative bottlenecks.
Definitely. Okay, let's shift to the learners themselves. Manually creating learner accounts seems to be the recommended way for site admins, usually through the Classes tab.
That's often the most efficient way, yes. But, and this is important, the materials strongly caution against creating learner accounts without first linking them to a class.
Why is that?
Well, if you create an account without a class, it only gets access to Ellii Solo, that self-directed part. And crucially, that account can't be easily shared with other teachers. And its usage data, the stuff you need for reporting distance learning proxy hours, isn't accessible to other staff either.
Ah, okay. So it's a critical point for data integrity and collaborative teaching.
Exactly.
Now, when you do manually create accounts, there's that specific username format they request.
Right. The 2-letter abbreviation for your program or consortium, followed by the learner's SID ID number, like HG123456 was the example.
Okay, but here's where it gets a bit quirky, right? The form doesn't actually have a dedicated fields for an ID number.
Correct. And you currently can't put numbers in the first or last name fields either.
So you should include the SID ID in the username. But then, frustratingly, that username doesn't always show up in the downloadable participation CSV report.
Yeah, that's the quirk. It's always those small, seemingly innocent things in systems that can cause the biggest headaches, isn't it?
Tell me about it.
But look, it can be a little frustrating, but the materials do offer practical workarounds. If those SID are critical for your CSV reports, there are ways.
Like what?
Well, for instance, you can save the report page itself as a PDF or just take a screenshot to capture both the names and the usernames together.
Okay, a bit clunky but doable.
Or, alternatively, you could sign in as the learner and actually edit their name in their profile to include the SID ID.
Hmm.
Or even teach learners how to edit their own profiles to add it. The specifics for these workarounds, they're clearly detailed in the training slides. It just highlights that staying on top of that ID tracking is pretty crucial if you need it for accurate reporting. It's optional, but important if you need it.
Gotcha. Okay, finally, what about learner self-enrollment? When might that be useful?
It can be incredibly useful, yeah,
Yeah.
especially when learners have active email accounts and, at least intermediate digital literacy skills. They can scan a QR code, click a link, or enter a class guide, kind of like you might see with Khan Academy or similar platforms.
Right.
Or they can receive an email invitation directly from the lead teacher. And if someone's already using Ellii, maybe in another class, they can join additional classes just by entering the new class code.
So, multiple ways for learners to get connected, depending on the situation.
Exactly. Flexibility again.
All right. We've arrived at reporting, a really critical part of the process, especially for those distance learning proxy hours. So important for program funding accountability.
Yeah, definitely crucial. And this final section, it's actually quite straightforward, but there's one major detail that really stands out. You must run a separate report for each class to capture that time on task data.
Oh, really? Not one big report.
Nope. There isn't a single report that pulls all learner data across all classes simultaneously. So it means a bit more clicking maybe for larger programs, but it does ensure accuracy for each specific class.
Okay. Separate report per class.
Got it.
Is there an exception?
Yes. The one exception is Ellii Solo. Remember, that's where learners choose their own content.
Right.
All learners using Ellii Solo will appear on a single consolidated report.
Ah, okay. So if my learners are using both assigned LA classroom activities and doing self-selected stuff in LA Solo?
Then you'll need to run a report for each classroom they're in and then one additional report specifically for Ellii Solo to capture all their time.
Makes sense. Two types of activities, two types of reports needed, essentially.
Precisely. And there's a detailed step-by-step guide available for running both types of these Ellii reports so you're not left guessing.
Good.
And here's an important calculation point for your proxy hours. Since Ellii is a time-on-task platform, the learner's time spent on activities gets multiplied by 1.25 when you enter it into SID.
Okay, the 1.25 multiplier. Important detail.
Very. And there's even a spreadsheet provided to help with those calculations, which should streamline that process quite a bit. And you have flexibility too. You can choose to add the classroom time and the solo time together for just a single entry in SID, or you could enter them on different days. It depends on your program's specific needs and workflow.
All right, wow. We've certainly covered a remarkable amount of ground today. That was a real deep dive. From understanding what Ellii is, its dual nature, curriculum and distance learning, to navigating the statewide pilot, managing the classes and learner accounts, and finally getting those crucial reports for the proxy hours.
Yeah.
I feel like, you listening are now equipped with the logistical and administrative knowledge you need to really effectively use your state-supported LA account.
Absolutely. I agree. The core of this deep dive was about enabling you to gain that knowledge quickly, but also thoroughly. We've highlighted the structure, the key roles, the streamlined processes, and even, those specific little details like username formats or the report quirks. It's really about empowering you to leverage this tool effectively from day one.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Well, you have a clear roadmap for getting your LES staff account. The source materials remind us of the necessary next steps. Maybe rereading the slides if you wish, completing those 2 quick checks or quizzes online, and then crucially, the training evaluation. That evaluation is your gateway, basically. It gets your account invitation and that important CEU certificate, your continuing education unit certificate.
That's right. And if you still have questions after all this, remember the source material mentioned specific Q&A sessions. They were scheduled for instructional staff and support staff back in July 2025. Those are recorded if you couldn't attend live. And of course, you can always contact the DL team directly, so support is definitely available.
Absolutely. Okay, here's a final provocative thought for you to mull over as we wrap up. How might understanding all these administrative details, the structure, the roles, the processes, allow you to be not just a user of LE, but maybe an even more effective advocate, or perhaps an innovator, Thinking about how digital learning tools like Ellii can really transform adult education in your own community, think about how these processes streamline the work, sure, but also where you might see opportunities for even greater impact, greater reach for your learners. Something to chew on.